Hi guys, welcome to Psychic Roulette Strategies. This is the first video in a series of question and answer videos that I'll be providing over the next few weeks, answering questions about my ebook and also my experience with making money with seeing the future of roulette numbers over the last year. Now the question I want to answer in this first video is about how did I reverse engineer seeing the future of roulette numbers. The answer to that question is very simple. I did this by simply deconstructing the discipline of seeing the future of roulette number, or the skill of seeing the future of roulette numbers, into components or 5 different parts. Now, I want to show you guys how I did that using a mind map, because I just think it's a lot simpler for me to explain this, because I had to draw it all on a piece of paper when I was doing this. So the first part is that I broke it into 5 components. Then from that, the 5 components are made up of: the first one is pick a spot on a clear white piece of paper. The second one is to focus on that spot intensely with the intent to see the number on the next spin. The third was to hold my focus for about 30 seconds to a minute. The fourth was I waited until there was a slight tinge bluish purplish. Now the fifth and final is just to keep holding that focus and look out for numbers or impressions of numbers, sometimes shadows on a piece of paper. Now for those of you who are starting out, sometimes you might not get any of this. You might not see anything on the paper, but you might get an impression in your mind that it's a 23 or it's a 5, and usually that's the way it starts, and then eventually over time you'll start to see it on the piece of paper. Now these 5 components, they were basically, each part relates to a skill or something new I had to learn, or something I had to know in order to progress my discipline. Now for example, the first one, pick a spot on a white piece of paper. This was all about lighting and surface. Now the different lighting conditions in which I would see the future of the roulette numbers, and also the different surfaces that I use. You see, some lighting is really good and some surfaces are really good and the others are not. So for example, what I did for this was I went out and I tested a whole bunch of different surfaces and lighting conditions, and also angles at which the light came in. So you have to start, when you're doing roulette, you don't want to make this too complicated for you. So you want to find the easiest ways to learn this skill quickly, because I started this about 5 years ago, and it was very frustrating for me at the start because I didn't know what I was looking for. So I had to create all of this mind maps and test different things to find out what worked and what didn't. So for example, the second one is about focusing on a spot intensely with the intent to see the next number of the next spin. Now the skill for that was about it was about holding my focus in one spot without allowing my mind to wander, about what I'm going to eat tomorrow, what I was going to see. So just to keep my mind focused on one spot. And how I did that was I looked for different meditational practices that would allow me to hold my mind in one place without letting it wander. The third one was basically about holding that same focus, keeping my mind there, but for an extended period of time, 30 seconds to a minute. And again, I used various different meditational practices. The best one I found was candle focus, and that allowed me to keep my mind in one spot for 30 seconds to a minute. Now the fourth component and the skill for that, or the thing I needed to know, was, in this instant, the fourth phase or the component was really more of a signpost for me, telling me that the end is near, the number is coming. So not to lose hope, not to give up, basically, the more I became aware of this discipline by understanding each component, the easier I knew not to rush. So all I had to do in the fourth one was just to hold on for a little bit longer, and in the fifth one was just to expect or to look for the impression, whether it showed up on the piece of paper or in my mind. So as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who are starting out, you might just get an impression in your mind. Others, you probably see it on a piece of paper. Now, this is pretty much how I did it. I know it seems very simple, and for some of you, this might look a bit complex. I can't guarantee that it'll work for everyone. So, for those of you who find this fantastic, please leave me a comment and let me know what your thoughts are. For those of you who don't find this that it might work for them, please let me know as well, so I can maybe refine it even more, so that I can give you guys a much better understanding of how this works. So I look forward to answering more of your questions, and I will see you guys on the next video, next Q&A video. Thank you again for your time. Cheers.